Hi, this is Neve, and I'm coming to you with Rose Petals and Eyeless Jack X Reader by Afflicted-Alibis. This is one that I had one of my friends recommend to me, and they said the writing was pretty good. But let's start off with Chapter 1, Family. Your POV. I'm glad it's almost the weekend. I don't think I can handle another day of work after today. Your best friend Melina listened as you complained about your job. She sat on top of her bed whilst you paced about her bedroom, gesturing wildly as you went on. Oh yeah? She said. I mean, really? You yelled, who the hell makes a chicken sandwich when the order was a frickin' cheeseburger with a large fry? Melina giggled through her words. Maybe they got the order mixed up with another? You threw your hands in her direction. He repeated the order out loud. Cheeseburger with a large fry, and then he looked his coworkers in the eyes and made a fucking chicken sandwich. Melina wheezed and he looked at her properly. She was a dark-skinned, chubby girl whose face was always full of light. You adored her high spirits and at some points were kind of envious of it. Her hair was pulled back to further expose her beautiful features, and her clothes were always as bright as her personality. And don't get me started on the customers. An old man yelled at Yolanda because his coffee was too hot and then dumped it out on the floor demanding a refund. Who does that? Before anything else could be said, you heard her mother's muffled voice calling out to the both of you from downstairs. Melina, YN, pizza rolls are done. You and Melina stopped and looked at each other. Immediately, the both of you were racing out of the door and down the stairs for the kitchen. You had the advantage and made it there first, which allowed you to start shoveling pizza rolls onto your plate before she could. No, Melina cried out as she reached you and began to fight you for pizza rolls, managing to take a few from you in the tussling. Her mother, Miss Lovelace, moved out of the way. You two better chill out or you'll make a mess. You let Melina take her fair share of the rolls. Thanks for taking them out, you told her mother. Miss Lovelace nodded as she started for the doorway. Yeah, just don't forget about them next time. As the older woman left, you and your friend took the rest of the pizza rolls and wandered into the living room. You sat down on the couch next to Melina, the TV tuned into a random news channel. The both of you ignored it to continue talking and eating. Glad it's the weekend too, Melina said, continuing the previous conversation. She suddenly smirked as she looked at you. It just means we've got more time to hook you and Nico up. You tensed up, your face heating. Shut up. Melina grinned wide at your reaction. Come on, we're so close, I can feel it in my gut. No, what you feel in your gut is pizza rolls. I swear, she exclaimed, Nico's totally into you. He's just too shy to admit it. Ever since Melina had found out you had a crush on another good friend of yours, Nico, she had been playing the role of wingman for you, despite your countless protests against it. Though sometimes you were a little grateful for it. Some admittedly good moments had happened between you and Nico thanks to your best friend, and you had thanked her for it. You swallowed a few more pizza rolls. Oh yeah? How do you know? How do you not know? She said. It's all in the way he looks at you and how he gets shy and sweet with you. You're seeing things. You cut yourself off when in the corner of your eye an image that popped up on the TV caught your attention. A female news reporter was on one side of the screen with a basic blue background. Words scrolling across the bottom of the screen to the right of her was an image of a crime scene in a bedroom. Blood splattered the entire room, though most of it was a huge pool in the bed where a person had been clearly lying as they were brutally murdered. The news reporter was learning information. The officer spoke with the neighbor which had called them and informed them that they had witnessed the killer crawl out of the window and run off into the night. The only noticeable feature the victim's neighbor could had were the killer's black hair and blood-covered white hoodie. Police say the victim's face was badly mutilated and had been stabbed approximately 30 times. I guess Vi really did hear those police sirens last night, said Melina. That's close to her apartment. Geez, yeah, he frowned. Kinda kills the appetite for pizza rolls. Really? She asked, leaning closer. I guess that just means more for me then, huh? You hugged your plate closer. Never mind, he said quickly. Melina's mouth curved up. So that tomato sauce isn't looking anything like blood to you, is it? Shut up, you rolled your eyes and gave a playful shove to her shoulder. The both of you went back to eating, forgetting about the tragic incident on the news. So, the Halloween party tomorrow, you coming? Melina asked. Nico's gonna be a sexy fireman. You almost choked on your pizza roll. You eyed her, blushing. Really? Melina burst out laughing, and you immediately knew she was messing with you. You pushed her shoulder again. Don't do that. I'm sorry. She waved you off and then looked at you with a straight face. He's gonna be a sexy werewolf. Stop with the sexy, you yelled, though you were smiling at her whether you liked it or not. I actually have no idea what he's gonna be. If I did, I would totally make you two, like, just so happen to match, and then you two would be the cutest little things together. And stop, you said again. Your face was burning, and you hid it behind one of your hands. Fine, but tell me if you're going. Maybe? You winced a tad, bringing your face back into view. I don't know if Liam wants to go trick-or-treating or not. Your brother can take care of himself. He's 9, you said. Melina hummed in thought, shoulders dropping. Get your sister to take him, she tried. You shook your head, face falling. No, Iris will probably be out. Oh, right, I forgot. Somehow you managed to go all day up until that point without thinking of your family even once. Thoughts of them almost brought all of the complications that came with them to mind, and suddenly your pizza rolls didn't taste as good. Speaking of my family, Melina, I think I should be heading home now. She frowned, but understood. Okay, oh, but visit my mom in her garden real quick. She's got some freshly picked roses for you. You finished the rest of your pizza rolls and stole a few off Melina's plate, and went out to share where Miss Lovelace was working in the garden. You thanked her for the roses and for the time at her home, and then you left. The graveyard was a regular place for you to visit, and it never failed to leave you in a sense of melancholy, no matter what mood you were in before. Sometimes you imagined all the bodies lined up in a row underneath the dirt, and that only made it worse, as the existential questions nearly always followed. The graves, thankfully, were kept in decent condition, and a number of gifts for the dead lined some of them. You read through the rows of gravestones until you reached the one that belonged to your parents. Your shoulders sunk at the sight of it. The only things ever left for them anymore were your flowers. Roses, specifically, because they were your mother's favorite flower. You stared down at the grave. It was a single wide, large stone with their names, but not dates carved into it. It was unfortunate that the bodies were never found. 7 years ago, when you were right at the cusp of hitting your teenage years, you, your sister Iris, and your parents had gone out on a camping trip. Your little brother Liam, who was 2 at the time, was back home being looked after by your Uncle Lewis, who had no home then and was working while you stayed with your family. It was growing dark out where you were showing your sister survival tips, and you learned from your scouts training when you had heard your parents scream. The memory beyond that was blurry. Your therapist from your teenage years said it was due to trauma. Vaguely, you could recall something inhumanly tall and faceless snatching up your parents, and you knew it wasn't aware you and your sister were there, and both of you ran for it back for civilization for help. Your parents were gone, and you were stuck with your Uncle Lewis and your siblings. Gently, you set down the roses on the grave, bid your parents farewell, and began to leave the graveyard to make your own way home. Before you had even opened the front door, you could already hear the arguing between your sister and your uncle. You sighed, shaking your head, and headed inside with worry for your little brother. By the sound of things, the fight was a heated one and came from the kitchen. Somebody slammed something on the counter, and the screaming only got louder. You wished things could go back to how they were when your parents were still alive, and everyone got along. Neither your sister nor your uncle were always on the verge of a breakdown or something, and sometimes, with all of the tension and stress that came with things that happened in your home, you felt as if you too were close to breaking down. You hurried upstairs to your room and set down your things before you began to search for Liam. Most of the time when you or Iris fought with Uncle Lewis, Liam would be either in his room or with the other sibling. Yet, with Iris in the kitchen with your uncle and Liam not in his room, as you had just checked, you're beginning to worry. The other few times your little brother was when he had tried to run away from it all. It wasn't as if you couldn't really blame him. You had frequent desires to flee this hellhole as well, and it wasn't as if Iris enjoyed being home either, but Liam was still a child. Being out there all alone was dangerous for him. You searched the rest of the upstairs for him, but he wasn't there, and quickly you raced back downstairs, and as soon as you had, you heard his high-pitched voice coming from the kitchen. Stop it! Stop, please! You made a beeline for the kitchen, spotting him next to the doorway, screaming at Uncle Lewis and Iris to stop fighting. Tears rolled down his face. Your uncle towered over Iris, his face melting with rage. Iris's face matched as she stood her ground, except she was on the verge of tears as she looked her uncle in the eye. Your heart pounded and you were growing faint from the overwhelming situation. I said stop. Liam tried screaming louder and you could tell his throat hurt. Uncle Lewis and Iris ignored him as if he weren't there at all. Your uncle shoved Iris back and she tumbled, barely catching herself against the counter. She screamed and your uncle screamed back, but you didn't pay attention to their words as you tried to grab Liam. He ripped his arm out of your hold once he noticed you and charged the other two. You swiped at him to grab him again, but missed. No, Liam, don't. You scrambled after him as he grabbed his uncle's shirt, but it was too late. As Uncle Lewis and Iris were beating on each other, your uncle's stray hand flung out once Liam had grabbed him and struck your little brother across the face, hard enough to send him flying back. You piece of shit, don't touch him! Iris's rage fueled her as she screamed. She was on her uncle in an instant, taking the offensive as you once again tried to get a hold of your little brother. Liam began to sob, darting past you and out of the kitchen, and you trembled. These nights were the worst. Once you had gathered enough strength to keep going, you broke into a sprint after your brother, only to see the front door was already wide open, revealing the bleak, dark world outside. No, 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 no. Panic turned into complete terror as you flew out the door, frantically dug your car keys out of your pocket as you made it to your car. You wished your parents were there. You wished they would break up the fight between your uncle and sister, and You wish they would comfort you and help you go after your brother, or perhaps they would have prevented him from running away at all. If they were around to begin with, none of this would have happened. You jumped into the front seat of your car and you swore under your breath as you started the car and pulled off down the road, hoping you were going the right way and that you would find your brother before he got hurt. That is just one chapter. One chapter has given us 10 minutes. I feel like this is going to be a good story. The chapter after this one is chapter 2, The Man in the Blue Mask. I will see you guys in the next video. Please let me know how you feel about this and if you guys like it or not. And I apologize my stuttering and I stumble over my words a lot in this one. But this is pretty good. I like it. It's giving like actual like plot and story and like I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.